Jessica never believed in love at first sight until she met Daniel. It was one of those warm summer evenings when the world felt slow and golden. She was sitting at a cafe near the river, reading a book, when Daniel walked in with that easy smile that made people instantly like him. He asked if the seat beside her was taken, and that simple question started a love story that felt straight out of a movie. From that day on, they were inseparable. They took long walks, shared ice cream on park benches, and spent hours talking about their dreams. Daniel was charming, funny, and attentive. He made Jessica feel safe, like she had finally found someone who truly saw her. When he proposed a year later, it wasn't in some grand, showy way. It was private, intimate, and perfect. He knelt down in their favorite garden under the fairy lights and said softly, "Jess, I can't imagine life without you. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Yes." From then on, everything revolved around their wedding. They opened a joint account they called their Forever Fund. Every month, they added money together, skipping fancy dinners, cutting down on extras, and saving for the big day. Jessica loved watching that balance grow. It wasn't just money. It was their shared dream taking shape, penny by penny. Jessica planned every detail like it was a work of art. The venue was a charming countryside estate with white roses climbing over stone arches. The dress, a delicate lace gown she had found after months of searching, made her feel like a princess. The guest list included their closest friends and family, people who had watched their love story bloom. Every evening, she and Daniel would sit on the couch with a cup of tea, scrolling through photos of cakes, decorations, and honeymoon spots. He'd tease her about how obsessed she was with color themes, and she'd laugh, saying, "You'll thank me when everything looks perfect." He'd smile, squeeze her hand, and say, "Jessica, everything's perfect already. I have you." She believed him completely. In those moments, Jessica felt like the luckiest woman alive. The world felt bright, her heart light. She'd often catch herself daydreaming about their future, a cozy home, weekend breakfasts, maybe a dog, and someday kids running through the garden. Her best friend once joked, "You're glowing, Jess. You look like you've already found your forever." And she had believed she did. The day before the wedding, Jessica stood in front of her mirror, trying on her dress one last time. The soft fabric hugged her just right. The veil shimmered in the light, and her heart raced with pure happiness. She imagined walking down the aisle, Daniel waiting at the end, eyes full of love. She smiled at her reflection, whispering, "Tomorrow, my forever begins." Little did she know, tomorrow would bring anything but forever. The morning of the wedding. Jessica woke up to sunlight streaming through her window and the scent of fresh flowers filling the room. Her bridesmaids were already bustling around, laughing, curling hair, and sipping mimosas. Everything was perfect, or so it seemed. Her phone buzzed with messages. "Can't wait to see you walk down the aisle. You're going to be the most beautiful bride ever." Jessica smiled at every text, her heart fluttering with excitement. She had barely slept, but she didn't care. It was the happiest day of her life. She picked up her phone to send Daniel a quick good morning message. "Morning, fiancé. Can't believe this is our day. Heart." She waited. A few minutes passed, no reply. It didn't bother her at first. Maybe he was getting ready, maybe his phone was charging. There was so much happening today. But as the minutes turned into an hour, and then two, something inside her started to shift. Her bridesmaid Emily noticed the worry on her face. "Everything okay?" she asked. Jessica forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm sure he's just caught up with the guys. You know Daniel, probably trying to fix his tie or calm his nerves." But deep down, she felt a faint chill. When her mother entered the room, face pale, holding her phone tightly, Jessica's heart dropped. "Sweetheart," her mother said softly, "the venue just called. Daniel isn't there yet." She blinked. "What do you mean he isn't there?
He was supposed to be getting ready 2 hours ago." Her mother hesitated. "They tried calling him. He's not picking up." That's when panic began to claw at her chest. She dialed his number over and over, straight to voicemail. She sent messages, each one more desperate than the last. "Daniel, where are you? Please don't tell me you're joking. Everyone's waiting. Please answer me." Still nothing. By afternoon, whispers began spreading among the guests. His family didn't know where he was either. No one did. It was as if Daniel had vanished into thin air. Her dress felt suddenly too tight. Her hands trembled as she held her phone, staring at their shared account app, something she hadn't checked in weeks. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was dread, but she opened it. Her breath caught. Balance? $0. Every cent of their carefully saved wedding fund gone. She stared at the screen, her heart hammering. She refreshed the page again and again, praying it was a mistake, but the truth was right there, cruel and clear. Daniel hadn't just disappeared. He had taken everything. Her knees gave out. Her friends rushed to her side, but their voices felt far away, muffled by the roar in her ears. She sat there on the floor, her wedding dress spread around her like a broken dream. Her tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Why? Why would he do this to me?" The police said there wasn't much they could do right away. Daniel was an adult, and technically, the account had both their names. It wasn't theft. Her heart shattered. The man she loved, the man she trusted with everything, had used that trust to destroy her. That night, the house was silent, except for the sound of rain tapping on the windows. Jessica sat alone on her bed, makeup smeared, dress still crumpled beside her. She looked at the ring on her finger, beautiful, shining, meaningless, and slid it off slowly. Her fairy tale had turned into a nightmare. But what she didn't know then was that this pain, this betrayal, would soon become the spark for something far greater. Because Jessica was done crying. The woman Daniel broke would soon rebuild herself, stronger, smarter, and determined to make sure no one ever got away with betrayal again.
The next few weeks were a blur of tears, silence, and disbelief. Jessica barely ate, barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's smile, the one she thought was real, the one that fooled her completely. People around her didn't know what to say. Some whispered out of pity, others avoided her altogether. Her phone was full of unanswered texts from well-meaning friends saying, "You'll be okay," or "He didn't deserve you." But those words didn't heal the emptiness in her chest. Jessica had lost more than money. She had lost trust, confidence, hope. For days, she stayed in her apartment surrounded by unopened wedding gifts and boxes of decorations that now felt like cruel reminders of what could have been. But one morning, after crying until her eyes were swollen, she looked at herself in the mirror and said quietly, "He took everything, but he's not taking me." That was the moment something inside her shifted. She called the bank, the insurance company, and even her lawyer. Bit by bit, she started cleaning up the mess Daniel had left behind. When she learned that part of their wedding expenses had been covered under event insurance since the event never took place, she received a refund. Not a fortune, but enough to start over. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Jessica used some of the money to move to a new apartment, smaller but bright and peaceful. She got a part-time job at an event agency just to keep herself busy. Watching brides walk in, glowing and laughing, used to sting, but slowly she started seeing something else, a pattern. Every woman she met had a story, a betrayal, a heartbreak. Some had been cheated on, some abandoned, some lied to. They all shared that same look Jessica had once worn, the look of someone who gave their whole heart to the wrong person. One evening, after work, Jessica was scrolling through social media when she came across a post from a woman warning others about a charming man who scammed her. The story was eerily familiar. Different face, same pain. Jessica stared at the screen for a long time. Then an idea sparked, wild, unfiltered, but powerful. What if she could help people like her? What if she could use her pain to make sure men like Daniel didn't get away with it again? That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts, plans, possibilities. The next day, she opened her laptop and started researching how to investigate people legally, how to find financial trails, how to track online scams. She devoured articles, watched tutorials, even joined forums where victims of fraud shared tips. Piece by piece, she started to learn. Jessica began offering free help online, small cases at first, helping women check if their partners were lying, spotting fake identities, or tracing where their loaned money had gone. She didn't call it revenge, she called it protection. But her reputation grew fast. People started referring her to others. Soon she began charging small fees, just enough to cover her time. Then, one day, she got a call that would change everything. A wealthy client, a woman whose husband had drained her business account and disappeared, offered Jessica a large sum to find him. It was a risk, but Jessica accepted. Weeks of digging, analyzing transactions, and connecting dots led her right to him. When the man was caught, the client was beyond grateful. She handed Jessica an envelope filled with cash and said, "You have a gift, dear. You turn pain into power."
Jessica's life had completely transformed. It had been almost a year since the disaster that was supposed to be her wedding. Now, instead of crying herself to sleep, she spent late nights behind her laptop, headphones on, coffee by her side, eyes sharp as she traced bank transactions, fake profiles, and hidden assets. Her business, Vengeance Recovery Services, had quietly become famous among people who'd been betrayed or scammed. She wasn't just helping women anymore. She'd helped men, business owners, even families recover what was stolen from them. Her name spread like wildfire across online forums. If you've been played, call Jessica. She doesn't miss. Each success brought her a strange kind of peace. It wasn't happiness, not really, but it was power, control. The one thing Daniel had taken from her and that she had fought to reclaim. One rainy evening, Jessica sat in her small office reviewing case files. The sound of thunder echoed outside when her phone buzzed with a new client request. The email's subject line made her freeze. "Need your help. Possible fraud by a man named Daniel R." Her heart stopped for a second. She reread the name, her pulse quickening. It couldn't be him. There were thousands of Daniels. It was just a coincidence, right? But as she scrolled down and saw the attached photo, her blood ran cold. It was him. The same smile, the same face that once promised her forever. Only now, he was using a new name, David Reynolds, and living in another state. The client, a woman named Claire, explained that she had met David online. They'd been dating for 6 months, and he had convinced her to invest in a joint property they were supposedly buying together. He disappeared 2 weeks ago with $45,000 of her savings. Jessica stared at the email for a long time. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from something darker. He was still doing it, still breaking hearts, still stealing, still smiling that same fake smile. But this time, he'd picked the wrong woman's client. The next morning,
Jessica began her investigation with icy focus. She traced the digital fingerprints, fake emails, offshore accounts, old IPs, and every trail pointed back to one man, Daniel Ross, her Daniel. When she finally tracked his current address, a storm of emotions hit her. Rage, disbelief, a small flicker of the old hurt, but beneath it all, satisfaction. She printed out the file, tucked it into her black leather folder, and whispered to herself, "Hello again, Daniel." A week later, Jessica flew out to the city where he lived. She hadn't told anyone. This wasn't business anymore. It was personal. She found him easily. He was running a fake investment consulting firm, dressed in expensive suits, smiling for photos with clients, just like the perfect man he once pretended to be for her. Watching from across the street, Jessica felt an odd calmness. She wasn't the broken bride anymore. She was the hunter now. Over the next few days, she quietly collected evidence, recorded calls, bank transfers, fake documents. She built a file so solid, even the police couldn't ignore it. Then, one morning, she made her move. She sent Claire and several other victims everything they needed to report him, and she forwarded a full evidence package to the authorities. It didn't take long. Within a week, David, was arrested for fraud and embezzlement. The story even made local news. Jessica watched the broadcast from her hotel room, sipping coffee, eyes unblinking as his face appeared on the screen, confused, desperate, cornered. For the first time since that awful day, she smiled. He had taken her happiness, her trust, her money, but she had taken something far greater. His freedom, his mask, his illusion. When she turned off the TV, she didn't feel the wild rush of revenge she expected. Instead, she felt peace, closure. Jessica walked to the window, looking out at the gray sky, and whispered, "We're even now." But deep inside, she knew something more powerful had begun. This wasn't just about Daniel anymore. It was about every person who'd ever been betrayed and left to rebuild alone. And Jessica wasn't done helping them. Her vengeance business had just gone global.
Months passed after Daniel's arrest. The world slowly moved on, but Jessica's life was busier than ever. What began as a one-woman mission had turned into something much bigger. Vengeance Recovery Services now had a small team, 2 tech experts, a legal advisor, and a counselor who helped clients rebuild emotionally after financial or romantic betrayal. The media called her the broken bride who fights back. Some people saw her as a hero. Others called her dangerous. But Jessica didn't care what they said. She finally felt like her life had meaning again. Every day, new emails poured in, people from across the country begging for her help. Some stories made her furious, some made her cry, and some made her proud to be doing what she did. Jessica had turned her pain into power, and her power into purpose. One afternoon, as she was reviewing a case file, her assistant knocked on the door. "Jess, there's someone here to see you," she said softly. "You might want to take this one." Jessica looked up, confused. "Who is it?" The door opened, and in walked Claire, the woman who had unknowingly helped her catch Daniel. Claire smiled warmly. "I just wanted to thank you in person. Because of you, I got my money back. And honestly, I got my life back too." Jessica stood and hugged her. "You don't owe me anything, Claire. You saved yourself. I just showed you where to look." But Claire shook her head. "No, you showed me that surviving betrayal isn't the end. It's the beginning." Her words hit deep.
After Claire left, Jessica sat in silence, thinking. She realized that all along, she had been chasing closure, wanting Daniel to pay, and he had. But the real victory wasn't his downfall, it was her rise. For so long, she had thought revenge would heal her, but what truly healed her was helping others find justice and strength when they thought they had none. She opened her laptop and began writing a new mission statement for her company. Not about vengeance, not about payback, but about empowerment. At the top of the page, she typed, "We don't destroy lives, we rebuild them." That night, as the sun set behind her office window, Jessica smiled to herself. For the first time since her wedding day, her heart felt light, free from bitterness, free from pain. She poured herself a cup of tea, looked out at the city lights, and whispered, "I guess this is my real happily ever after." The world outside was quiet, but in that silence, Jessica knew something profound. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't making someone pay. It's living so well that they no longer matter. And for Jessica, that was exactly what she did.